Hey there, friends. Today I'd like to talk about how to cure the addiction to approval. To do that, I'm going to be rocking out with a little man bun status because life is too short not to have a man bun. So, a question from a viewer about how to get over being an approval addict. I'll definitely speak to this from probably a complete place of hypocrisy and messiness, because I am absolutely an approval addict. I'm working on my addiction. I'm kind of in recovery. I'm making strides. So by no means will I pretend to be in a place of being above giving myself away for approval. I do it all the time. So hopefully I hear some of the things I say so that I can implement them to a little bit more of an intense degree in my life. With that said, Brian, thank you for your question, and I'm going to read a little bit of it so we can figure out what we're talking about. Help, I'm an approval addict. That's a good subject line. Got my attention. Something I'd like you to talk about is seeking approval of others. I feel like I try really hard to get validation for myself and my decisions through others. I feel like it's led me down roads that I should never have been on in the first place. Here's the punchline. How can I provide my own validation and my own approval? What does that look like? How can I stop myself when I see that I'm seeking validation through others? It's a good question. So one of the unspoken questions that I would guess this question implies is actually a question of how can I feel good and comfortable when I'm not seeking other people's approval? And to me, that is an impossibility, especially as we're breaking the addiction of needing people's approval. And that sounds a little pessimistic of me. And saying that sounds pessimistic of me is probably pessimism times 2. So I highlight that potentially unspoken question that at least part of my mind would be asking if I was asking this question. How can I stay comfortable and feel good when I'm not going after approval? I think if we're looking to feel good and comfortable, then breaking the approval addiction is not something we're actually in the business of being ready to do. From my point of view, if I was giving just a one-size-fits-all short soundbite of how to break the addiction to approval, it would be this. Learn to feel okay with not feeling okay. One of the things that drives me to seek people's approval is I don't feel okay feeling not okay. It doesn't feel okay to me, to part of me at least, when I'm not getting people's approval. If they're not saying, yeah, good job, JP, for what you just did. Or that's a good decision. Or yeah, you're okay the way you are. All those approval things. When I don't get that, part of me doesn't feel okay. And the fact that part of me isn't willing to be okay with not feeling okay drives me to do more of the same, of anesthetize the not okay feeling through the drug of approval. Hence, we're laying here in the gutter of our own approval addiction. So what can we do about that? I would dare say, do your best to be okay with feeling uncomfortable. Not seek the comfort zone. Not seek your comfort zone. In fact, all approval addiction is one big fat comfort zone. We feel comfortable when we're being approved of, uncomfortable when we're being disapproved of, and probably even worse yet, way more uncomfortable when we're getting zero approval or disapproval. Disapproval is just the opposite polarity of approval. It's the same energy, just opposite polarity. So when we're getting no attention, that actually equals no validation. That's why some people are defiant. They're always after disapproval because disapproval feels like approval enough for them to feel validated. So, long story short, learn to challenge yourself to leave your comfort zone and know that it's actually okay to be uncomfortable. It doesn't feel good, yet feeling uncomfortable is the sensation of not going after people's approval. And if we're not going after people's approval, it means we get to be ourselves. It means we get to honor ourselves. And I think that inherently feels incredibly good long term, but in the short term moment, that's why we're tempted to give ourselves away, because we get the temporary high of approval. So we might, when we honor ourselves, it might be a great long-term investment in making us feel like really good from the inside out, but it doesn't necessarily give us anything. I just snapped my fingers like I was going to say something smart. Maybe I should say something smart now. Honoring ourselves doesn't necessarily make us feel really good short term. There's a finger snap. And I think we have to be willing to sit with the discomfort of being in our own self rather than leaving our own company and leaving our own self as we go external and honor the approval of other people. By honoring their approval, we really make ourselves a slave. We dishonor the kingdom of our own self while we worship the approval of other people. I've said it in a bunch of other videos, and I, for God's sakes, hope I say it in a bunch more videos. A thought of Brene Brown's. He or she who is willing to be the most uncomfortable is not only the bravest, but rises the fastest. And my spin on what rising the fastest really means is we rise faster and deeper into our own self. So he or she who's willing to be the most uncomfortable is able to rise the highest. So, back to what I was saying a couple minutes ago. A cure, in my opinion, that's challenging to embody. It's a journey to embody, yet it's really easy to say, so I'll say it. The cure for approval addiction is be okay with not feeling okay. Does that make a little bit of sense? So in other words, you look at how you would normally, in a way, compulsively seek other people's approval, and you make a conscious choice. I am not going to do that in this moment, and I'm willing to accept the painful, uncomfortable consequence of sitting here and feeling this hollowness of invalidation. I'm willing to sit here in the discomfort of my own self and my own emotions that arise from my own self. That's a very conscious choice. And part of that conscious choice is a willingness to accept, experience, and feel what we might judge to be the negative consequences of surrendering our need for approval in this very moment. In an hour, we might choose approval. But what we can do is say, in this moment, it won't feel good. It won't feel okay to surrender my compulsion towards approval. But I'm okay with not feeling okay, at least in this moment. And if you put me in a hotter time of overwhelm, I probably won't be willing to experience how unokay I feel. If I'm already overwhelmed, then I probably don't have the capacity to not feel okay. Like, I'm not okay feeling not okay. I'm only okay with feeling okay. So I might have to give myself away through approval. I'll do that sometimes. And one of the last parts of the question is, how can I stop seeking approval when I notice myself doing it? I would dare say, don't set yourself up for an unrealistic expectation that you'll stop all the time. I would maybe set yourself up with the realistic invitation to do your best to stop some of the time when you notice you're acting out an approval-oriented program, an approval-oriented behavior, tendency, habit. So first off, becoming conscious of those unconscious tendencies is definitely important, in my opinion. And then two, asking yourself, in this moment, am I going to be okay not feeling okay as I sit in the void of other people's approval? By the way, that void, that's the womb of our own self, but it feels like a void relative to where the approval addict normally comes from. So we ask ourselves that question. Sometimes our truthful answer will be no. I'm not willing to experience that uncomfortability. And in those moments, we're going to seek approval. Welcome to being a human being. You're not going to be perfect. If you were perfect, that would make you a pretty unperfect human being. I think our perfection is found in our imperfection. So from my point of view, the best we can do is the best we can do, which is doing our best at the times where we truthfully, authentically can, is simply become comfortable with the discomfort of not having the external world validate us. And the times where we're needy enough that we need the external world to validate us, even though we know it's going to give ourselves away, prostitute ourselves, if you will, then hopefully we can at least forgive ourselves for being that needy. Thank you for this lovely question, and for all you, my lovely fellow approval addicts out there, appreciate you considering how you might be able to have a little bit more of a meaningful life, a little bit more connected to you if you surrender the intoxicating, compelling drug called approval seeking. So thank you guys for watching. If you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, feel free to do so. I'll feel incredibly approved if you do, and incredibly disapproved if you don't. Talk to you guys next time.